Nanaimo Ladysmith, resuming debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to be here today to discuss this important bill, and it's a real opportunity to talk about issues that are important to our communities. Of course, the government has been incredibly ambitious with this bill, talking about the possibility of launching rockets into space from Canada and developing a national space program by 2028. Yet in front of us we have a bill that's very easy reading, because at only 10 pages it only sketches out the briefest of details around what that program might look like. And so, Mr. Speaker, it's going to really be a challenge for the Transport Committee to think about how to operationalize this and how to think about asking the government where it's heading on this. And of course, one of the characteristics that is emerging from this government, which we really see in this bill, is a trend towards creating a new organization, putting it together sort of very thin details around it, and then leaving it to the executive branch of government to sort out with an incredible amount of discretion. And what that does under these circumstances is it creates a real conundrum. It creates a situation where, as constructive members of a loyal opposition, we want to work with this government to be able to realize the ambitions of Canada and to be able to build Canada into the kind of country that we can all be proud of. But we find ourselves facing these situations without a lot of guidance from the government about where they want to go. Of course, the ambitions associated with this bill are galactic, but the realities are closer to an abandoned...
Order. Sir, we do have a point of order. The honourable member for Okanagan Lake West.
We have translation, Mr. Chair, just so if you wouldn't mind.
Okay, I understand there may not be translation. Is translation working out en français? No, yeah, I understand translation interpretation is working, so I'm going to invite the member to resume her comments. The honourable member.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. This is actually a wonderful opportunity to be able to indicate that I'll be splitting my time with the member from Montmorency-Charlevoix. And you know, that takes me back, just as I think about it. You know, I was starting to talk about the fact that, on one hand, this bill is incredibly ambitious. It shares ambitions of galactic proportions, in fact, looking to be able to launch Canadian rockets into space and to be able to enhance our ability to participate in a space program. But of course, one of the challenges is that right now it looks like the program looks like a gravel pit or a gravel covered lot in Nova Scotia. And I'm sure that the site was selected for a good reason. I'm sure that it provides an optimal location to be able to launch from. But I think that it's going to be important from an oversight perspective to be able to look at and examine the economics of this deal. I mean, we have, Mr. Speaker, a very unusual set of circumstances in which, in this particular case, there was no need, it looks like, from the reports to actually expropriate this great location. It looks like there was, in fact, an entity that got there, that this is originally, I believe, it's originally Crown land, and that it was in fact being leased out to someone who has made what might be a deal of galactic proportions to be able to lease that space back to the government for a very large amount of money. Now, what I struggle with under these circumstances, Mr. Speaker, is that the need to examine this transaction comes at a time when when this Liberal government has actually taken steps in this House in the last 24 hours to make doing that harder to do. I was in the Ethics Committee last night, Mr. Speaker, for several hours listening to some of my colleagues from across the aisle speak with at great length and incredible lung capacity to the reasons why that committee should not, in fact, be able to get access to documents that the members of that committee were seeking in order to be able to examine matters related to the Prime Minister's schedule, to conflicts of interest, and to other matters that Canadians really deserve to be able to see into. It is so important under the conditions that we're in this country, where we really are, if as the Prime Minister says, we're in a time of rupture, it's a time when it is so important for the best ideas to rise to the top. And there's only one way for us to get the best ideas, Mr. Speaker, and that is to be able to subject them to detailed questioning and analysis. And so it is with that spirit that we approach our duties with respect to the Ethics Committee, because of course everyone knows that the government wants to live up to its expectations, but the reason that conflicts of interest screens exist and why committees like the Ethics Committee exist is because we are, of course, all human, Mr. Speaker, and that oversight and the knowledge that that oversight is there makes us be able to be crisp in our adherence to the law and to really have it be on our minds all the time, which is so important when we're dealing with taxpayer dollars. Now, that, of course, takes me back to this bill, Mr. Speaker, and the fact that we have this already within hours, frankly, of the initiative being announced. We have some questions as to the financial circumstances around the selection and lease of the site. And then on top of that, what we layer onto that is a bill that really is truly quite thin in terms of its regulation. And it doesn't answer some really important questions around how decisions are made, preferring instead to leave them to the discretion of the executive branch of the government. And of course, the thing about the executive branch of the government is that it doesn't operate in this place. It operates across the street and in various other buildings around our community, around here in the parliamentary precinct. And so it is so important to have that parliamentary oversight as we think about questions like around the safety and security of something as important as a space program, as we think about the intelligence implications and the other matters that need to be taken into account when you're launching an ambitious program such as this. And so, Mr. Speaker, we're examining this bill at a time when the government has taken some steps in the last 24 hours to establish sort of an iron control over committees that they will be able to use to quite frankly, to stifle debate on these issues. And my colleague earlier, one of my colleagues, was asking a question around the fact, or was pointing out the fact that in answer to a question about this act, one of the government members who is involved in transport, I think it might have even been one of the parliamentary secretaries, was discussing how they would be getting information like this. They'd be working things out with the Canadian Space Agency. And of course, that's of great concern to us because, of course, the Canadian Space Agency is not, while it's a very important organization, it's not an organization that has as its focus security and intelligence matters. There are, of course, defense implications to going to a space program like this. There are commercial implications. There are procurement implications. It really is one of those areas where the more I think about it, Mr. Speaker, the more I think of the need for a whole government approach to this, not to create additional bureaucracies, but to make sure that the legislation is precise enough and clear enough so that different parts of the government, different agencies understand what their roles and responsibilities are, so that regulations around this program can be developed in a sensible way and can be developed in an efficient way that is going to make sure that Canada gets the most out of this program at this very important time. If we are going to build our country, if we are going to do it in a way that creates good jobs for the next generation, then it is so important to handle this initiative in a responsible way. And it's going to be up to the Transport Committee, and I know that my colleagues and will do a good job in really thinking this bill through. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank all of my colleagues who have contributed from both sides of the aisle to making this program, this important program, launch in a good way. And I look forward to answering questions about my remarks now. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Questions and comments. Question and commentaire. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The legislation speaks for itself in the sense that here we are recognizing the potential in terms of just being able to build that Canada Strong for all by looking at how it is that the space industry, our aerospace industry, our military industrial industries, post-secondary facilities, all of which directly, one way or another, will be impacted by this legislation. We have an opportunity here to be able to generate and put the potential of literally thousands of jobs, billions in additional GDP contributions over the coming years. What we need is a framework within this legislation. Is the member committed to seeing the principle of the legislation pass through?
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I do thank the member for both his ambition and his optimism around this. If this bill does speak for itself, it does so very quietly, Mr. Speaker, because it is, of course, quite thin on detail. And so, yes, we agree with the members across the aisle that there is an opportunity here, and we look forward to probing that opportunity in committee to be able to put some substance on this bill. Thank you.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Okanagan, Lake West, South Kelowna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank the member for Ladysmith for such a great presentation, and I'm a Ladysmith for such a great presentation today. The government has said multiple times that this is to align Canada with other G7 countries like the UK and the United States. The UK, in their legislation, Mr. Chair, of Outer Space Act 1986, it literally says that the licensing authority must be satisfied that that a activity will not impede national security, end quote. And in the United States, Congress decided that giving identification of participants in the space industry should be decided by Congress and not by the administration itself. Why, in this case, does this legislation do neither?
Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Mr. Speaker, when I was a little girl, I thought that these spaceships went to the moon and beyond through magic, that it was this wonderful, amazing illusion. And as I look at this bill, I see yet another example of bills that are magic and illusion in the sense that they do not, they purport to put us on even ground with the G7. They purport to do wonderful and amazing things to propel Canada ahead in the world. But there is an awful lot missing when you look under the covers, including the kind of regulation and detail that my colleague just outlined. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Question and commentaire. The Honourable Member for Aurora, Oak Ridges, Richmond Hill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, once again, what we see here is yet another attempt by a Liberal minister, this Liberal government, to consolidate power around the office of the minister and giving full discretion to the minister, overlooking the importance of parliamentary oversight, of debate, of listening to other opinions, which of course leads to questions of transparency. I wonder if the member can comment on whether she thinks it's a good idea to consolidate power in the hands of the minister and not allowing parliamentarians to have a fulsome debate on an important issue like this.
The Honourable Member for Nanaimo, Ladysmith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And don't get me wrong, I really respect the fact that the government and my colleagues across the way are struggling to meet the world where it is and to find a good response for Canada in that context. But there is a disturbing trend, and it doesn't just come through this act, through Bill C-28. It's also shown up in other legislations like the Act Enabling the Major Projects Office or Build Canada Homes, where there is an ambitious, big, splashy announcement made, where there are promises made that are pie in the sky, sky high, into orbit, but where when we look at the details, the message is just trust us, we've got your back. And in a circumstance where the government is undeniably popular right now, that's one thing. But I hope that Canadians do not end up with buyer remorse down the road when they find out that power has been consolidated in a group of people who do not know how to wield it wisely. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Resuming debate. Reprise débat. L'honorable député de Montmorency.